Hi, this is Professor Wolber from USF and appinventor.org. I'm going to show you how to build the PaintPot app and basically show you how software lets people draw on a computer or draw on a phone, right? It's pretty interesting stuff. And so you're going to build this app where you can take a picture with the camera and then the user will be able to kind of draw circles and lines, change how big the circles are, change the color, and also clear the thing, right? So it's a pretty simple painting app, but it's a good template for other kind of creative artistic apps that you might want to build. You're going to learn a lot about canvases, which these panels where users can draw on them. They're also where you can do animation. You won't do animation with this app, but you will in later ones. Okay, so you'll learn a lot about canvases. You also learn about properties, changing properties, and looking at properties. So properties are like memory cells, right? Like spreadsheet cells, and you're gonna have to use them to kind of manipulate how your app works. Okay. Finally, you'll learn about variables. Variables are also memory cells. They're not like properties of some user interface component like width or height. They're these memory cells you define yourself when you need to remember something. Anyway, you'll learn a lot of programming. You'll build this kind of fun app, and I think you'll really give you a lot of progress towards your goal of learning how to program. Hi, this is Professor Wolber from appinventor.org and USF. I'm going to show you how to build apps with App Inventor 2, and I'm going to show you how to build a PaintPot app where you can kind of take a picture with your camera and then draw funny lines and circles on it. It's a fun app, and it'll teach you a lot about programming. Okay, so go to ai2.appinventor.mit.edu, and this is the new App Inventor 2. Go to Project, click New, and then I'm going to name my project PaintPot. All right, so this is going to open up the App Inventor Designer where you kind of build your user interface. Now, the first thing I typically do is once I get App Inventor up, I open up my App Inventor 2 companion. So on my phone, which is sitting on my desk here, and I'm projecting onto the screen, I've got MIT App Inventor 2 companion. And what you want to do is get that from the Google Play Store. It's a free, easy install, and once you do that, you can test your apps in a really nice way. So I'm going to right now click on scan QR code on my phone. Okay, then I'm going to come up and in the App Inventor, I'm going to choose Connect and AI Companion, and I'm going to scan that QR code that comes up. And what's going to happen is it's going to show me the app that I'm building right now. And you'll notice my app's not very interesting. It just shows screen one at the top. That's the title, right? And that's all there is. But anything I do now, it's going to show up on my phone. Okay, so we're going to build a drawing app. So go to Drawing and Animation and pull out a canvas component. Drag it out. Canvas component's like a panel on your screen. You can have many of them, but what you can do inside them is put sprites that are animated, and then you can also allow the user to draw inside of canvases. All right, so I've got my canvas. Almost always you want to set its width to fill parent, and that just means to fill the whole screen. All right, then I'm going to set its height to like 300 pixels. That'll leave us some room also for some buttons that we're going to use to let people change color and do that sort of thing. So I've got a canvas. I'm going to change its background image. I'm going to upload a file. You can upload any file you want. I'm going to upload a picture of Hal Abelson, who's the App Inventor creator, of his cat. This cat's become famous because it's been used in a bunch of these App Inventor tutorials. So I'm going to open up this little kitty, and he's going to show up on my screen. All right, so now I've got a drawing canvas where I'm going to draw, and we're going to be able to draw pictures on this Hal Abelson cat. And notice it shows up on my phone as well. Okay, so I've got my canvas set up. Next, I'm going to add some buttons. All right, first thing we want is a row of buttons so we can, kind of change the color. So I'm going to grab a horizontal arrangement. And this just allows me to create a horizontal row of objects. And then I'm going to go to user interface and just throw some buttons in there. Okay, there's one. It's a little tricky to get them in there, but make sure you get it so it shows up within the horizontal arrangement. And then finally I got my third button. So I've got 3 buttons. All right. With buttons, you've got a couple things you want to do. One is you want to change the text. So I'm going to change button 1's text to red. So this will be the button to change the drawing color to red. All right. I'm also going to rename button 1, and I'm going to call it red button. The important thing about kind of renaming your components, the user's not going to see this, right? But when you go to actually write your code in the blocks editor, you're going to be able to distinguish between the different components you have. Okay, so I've got red button. Last thing I'll do to it is change the color of it, and I'm going to go to background color for the button and choose red. Okay, so I've got this button all set up, and I'm not going to do this on the screencast here, but change these last 2 buttons to blue and green. Okay, make sure you change the names and change their color. All right, we'll come back and okay, so I've added the other buttons, and notice I've renamed them up here as well. All right, next thing I'm going to do is go to screen, and I want to actually align everything center. Okay, because I want my buttons to show up more in the center of the screen. So now I have this first row of buttons, which are going to allow me to change color. I want one more because we're going to do some other functions. So I'm going to add another horizontal arrangement right below here. And this one's actually going to have 4 buttons. So I'm going to grab some buttons and put them directly into my second horizontal arrangement. Okay, and so the 4th one, see if I can fit it in there. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, so I'm going to have one button which is going to say take picture. Okay, so this will allow us to change the background picture. The second button will allow me to kind of clear the interface. Okay, it won't clear the background color, but it will clear whatever's been drawn. And then third, I'm going to have a big button and a small button. These are going to allow us to change the size of the circles that get drawn. All right, so I've got this row of buttons that allow us to do a bunch of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and rename them. I'm going to rename them kind of like I did with the color buttons, like take picture button, clear button, big button, and small button. So you should go ahead and do that. When I come back, we're going to go ahead and start building the behavior of the app. All right, so I renamed the buttons in my second horizontal arrangement. And last thing I want to do before we go to the blocks editor is I want to add a camera component. So go to media and just grab this camera out. It's a non-visible component. So you drag it into the UI, but notice it shows up kind of below. Okay, and it does not show up in the actual UI that the user sees. Okay, we're going to need this to take pictures. So that's why we need to add it to our interface. All right, so I've got the design all set up. Next thing I'm going to do is show you the behavior. We're going to click on the blocks and actually show you how to make it so the user can draw. All right, what you see is a design of a PaintPot app in App Inventor. It's just the design. We haven't done any coding yet. Now I'm going to show you do the code to make all this stuff actually work. Okay, to do the code, you click on the blocks button in the right top corner, and this brings up the blocks editor. And this is where you're not going to see any textual code, but you're going to see a bunch of little puzzle pieces, little blocks that you can put together to make your app work. In this case, we first want just to let the user draw some circles on the picture, right? So I'm going to choose canvas, and what I want to do is when the user has touched the canvas, we're going to draw a circle. Okay, so when they touch, I'm going to go back to canvas and choose the draw circle function, and it is, sorry, where's the scroll bar? There it is. So I'm going to go and choose draw circle. Okay, so wherever the user touches, we want to draw a circle. Now if I draw a circle at some specific place, like let's say I grab from math, I grab some number blocks like, I don't know, 50-50 or 50-30. So I'm going to use Command C and Command V to copy that number block and make it 30. Okay, R is for radius, how big the circle is going to be. So I'm just going to grab and another number, and I'll just put 5 there. Okay, so right now, if I touch the canvas, it's going to draw a circle, but always in the same place. So I'm going to touch lower right corner, and the circle gets drawn in the top left corner. So I'm going to touch a bunch of times. It doesn't seem like anything's being drawn because a bunch of circles being drawn right on top of each other. So that's not exactly what we want, right? We don't want X and Y to be fixed. We want them to be the same place as where the user touches. And it's a little tricky because draw circle is a function with parameters, right? You can give it any numbers here for its X and Y, and really we want to give it the X and Y parameters from the canvas touched event. So the touched event parameters are named the same as the draw circle parameters, which is a little tricky. But I just want to go up to this X and grab a get X, and I'll stick it in the X slot for draw circle. Do the same for Y. Okay, and now when the canvas is touched, I'm going to draw a circle right where it was touched. So let me see if it works. I'm touching my phone right now, and as you can see, circles are getting drawn, and they're getting drawn wherever I touched. Okay, so we've got a draw circle function, and now the user can draw circles in their app. Drawing lines is pretty much the same, or very similar to how we draw circles. So I'm going to just kind of clean up the UI a little bit here, and I am going to then grab from canvas what's called a dragged event. Okay, so touched is when the user touches down and releases their finger right away. Dragged is when you drag your finger across the screen. Okay, it's got a bunch more parameters. The key ones here are previous X and Y and current X and Y. They tell us kind of as the user drags, you're going to get a bunch of these events, and each one will tell us where they started and where they finished. So even though the user's doing a continuous movement, what happens is a bunch of canvas.dragged events get called. Okay, what we want to do when the canvas.dragged occurs is draw a line. So I'm going to go to canvas, and I'm going to scroll down to draw a line and pull this out. And in this case, we want to draw a line from one point to another, and we really want to go on each of these drag triggers. We want to go from previous X and previous Y. Okay, that's where the user's drag started, to current X and current Y. All right, now let's see if this works. So I'm going to go over to my picture, and I'm going to drag my finger across, and you'll notice, yep, it's working. So even though it seems like I'm drawing these kind of continuous lines, really what's happening is a bunch of little tiny lines are getting drawn on each very tiny movement of my finger. Step back here and just notice our app right now it kind of consists of two event handlers, right? A touched and a dragged, and on both of those events we call a single function, one draw circle, one draw line. But this is our app. And most apps are exactly this. It's a set of event handlers. The user performs some action, or maybe some text comes into your phone, or some other kind of event, and you respond to it by doing something to the phone. All right, so we've got an app that kind of lets us draw lines and circles, but now we want to make it so we can change colors. We've got these nice buttons set up, and what I'm going to do is just first grab the red button and red button dot click. So when the user clicks on red, what do we want to happen? Well, it turns out Canvas has this property which is called the paint color. Okay, so if I go to Canvas and kind of scroll down, I'm going to see a property down here. The properties are in green, and one of them is called paint color. Okay, and what I want to do is actually change the paint color. So set in App Inventor means change. I want to change this little setting, this memory cell, which is the paint color, and by default it's black. Okay, so I'm going to stick this into red button dot click, and what I want to do is change it to something. I'm going to go over to colors and just grab this red block. Okay, so when the red button is clicked, when the user touches red, the user interface is going to change, but then the next time I draw, it should be in red. So let's try it out. I'm going to touch, no, sorry, I just disconnected my phone. That's all right. Let's reconnect. And now it shows back up on the screen. I'm going to touch red. Okay, and now if I draw some circles, they're all going to be in red. I think my lines will be in red too. Okay, so we've successfully changed the paint color for red. Now I need to do the same for blue and green. And I'm going to show you in App Inventor you can do Command C and Command V to copy blocks. Okay, and then they've got these nice widgets where you can switch what component you're talking about. In this case, I want to switch from red to blue. Okay, and when the blue button's clicked, of course, I want to change the paint color not to red, but to blue. And I think if I control click on this guy, nope, wrong one. Let's see. If I just click on it, I can just switch it and switch the color. Okay, so if I click on the color blocks, you can choose a different color. So I'm going to do one more Command V, paste it again, and for the what do I got left? Green button, and then I'm going to click over here and change it to green. Okay, so now let's see. If I click on blue, I can draw some blue. If I click on green, I can draw some green. My kitty's getting kind of messed up here, but at least I can now draw in color instead of just that black. I want to take care of one more thing in this video. Let's go ahead and take care of the clear button. So if I go to clear button and clear button.click, what do I want to happen? Well, go to canvas, and if you kind of scroll down, you're going to see it's got some functions here, and one of its functions actually pretty nice. It's exactly what we want. It'll clear the canvas. So I'm going to grab that clear call, and that's nice. So now if I click on the clear button on my phone, it's going to clear all the drawings. There it goes. Okay, so cool. Now we can get a clear canvas to draw on. All right, the next thing I'm going to show you involves, drawing either big or small circles, and it's kind of a funky user interface. We have these two buttons. Later, I'll show you how to do it with like a slider bar, which is a little better. But I want to do it this way to introduce variables. Okay, variables are these little memory cells you can create which store values for you. So if you don't have a property like paint color to store value, you can use a variable. And we need a variable to keep track of how big the circles are going to be. So I'm going to make some room and click on this dragged event and just say collapse block, and that'll just kind of get it out of the way. I can, of course, bring it back by just control clicking and choosing expand block, right? So it's a nice way to kind of clean your UI, at least for a while. So I do care about the touched event on what we're doing here. And what I want to do is deal with this big and small button. So I'm going to go to big button and small button and grab their clicks events. All right, so there's small button dot click. Okay, so what do I want to do when these two buttons are clicked? Well, kind of what I want to do is I want to make it so the radius changes for these circles. So I need to change the circle size. But I can't really do that directly, right? So this radius has to have something in it. It's not going to be 5, and that's where the variable comes in. Okay, so I'm going to define a variable. Think of it like a little spreadsheet cell. And I'm just going to say, okay, let's go grab a global variable. Let's name it dot size. Okay, the size of our circles. Okay, and we can give it an initial value. So unlike App Inventor 1, these blocks are not defined; they're called initialized. So this is just the initial value. So we're going to initialize it to 2, so that the dot size will start off as 2. When the big button is clicked, what we want to do is change the dot size to, let's say, 8. Okay, so if I kind of mouse over dot size, I can get a set. So I want to change the variable dot size, and I'm going to change it to 8. So I'm going to Command C, Command V to copy that 2, but then I'm going to change the number to 8. All right, then I'll Command V one more time to get another 2, and I'll copy this guy as well. And when they click the small button, we're just going to switch things right back to 2. So very small little dot sizes for after they click the small button. So we're almost there, right? Now when we click these buttons, we change our variable. But right now it doesn't really change how big the circles get drawn. We're still drawing everything as 5. And in fact, if I touch my phone, all the circles are 5, no matter if I click the small button or big button or not. So what we really need to do is get rid of that 5. Instead of so instead of some fixed number here, we need to get kind of abstract, right? And we need to grab a reference to dot size. All right, this is where programming gets a little less concrete, a little more abstract. But it's understandable if it's almost like algebra, right? You just have to kind of realize, oh yeah, there's this memory cell that I can't see. It's got a number in it. I can change that number, all right? and then I can go look and see what's in that number and use it, for instance, if I'm drawing a circle, to find out how big I should draw the circle. Okay, let's see if this works. I'm going to touch big, and then I'm going to draw a circle. Yep, it's bigger. Cool. If I touch small now, I should get some very small circles, and you can barely see them. They're so small. Let me make some red small ones. Okay, so very fundamental concept in programming are variables. We've already dealt with properties like canvas paint color, right? Those are kind of variables that are predefined for you and part of a component, right? The variable we use this time, dot size, is not part of a component. It's kind of a free agent memory cell. And we had to kind of, we defined it because we need to remember something, all right? What we needed to remember was each time they click big or small, we need to remember, how big the next dot should be. So we've got a kind of a nice drawing program where you can draw circles and lines, change color, make them bigger or smaller. And now what we're going to, make it a little more fun. We're going to make it so you can take a picture with your camera and then draw on that picture. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is just make some room. I'm going to control click on the touched and collapse it. And let's just kind of move it up here. We don't need to look at that for the time being. And we've got our camera component that we added in the designer. Remember, it was a non-visible component, and it's a camera, and we're going to use that now. All right. And kind of the first thing we want to do is kind of invoke the camera when this take picture button is clicked. So I'm going to go to take picture button, grab its click event. So when the user clicks the take picture button, let's cause the camera to kind of be invoked. All right. And the first, there's not much in camera, but the first thing is take picture. Okay, and this just, once they click that button, the camera will take over the phone, and the user will be able to take a picture. All right, you might have noticed the other kind of key block in here is this after picture, and it's an event. Okay, this is kind of like what's called a callback, and what it means is when the user finally gets done taking the picture, this event will get triggered, and in fact, it will tell us this parameter, this image, which will have the picture in it. All right, so it's pretty nice. All right, so after they get done taking the picture, what we want to do is set the canvas background. So I'm going to go to canvas, and we need the set background block. And let's see, draw a circle. There's set background. Set canvas dot background. All right, I want to set the background to this image that I just took. Oh, sorry, I actually got this wrong. We don't want to set the background color. Sorry, I got the wrong property. I want to go back to canvas, and I'm going to grab the set background, not to set the background color, but the set background image, which is this next one down here. Okay, and now if I stick the image in there, this should work pretty good. Okay, so when the user clicks the take picture button, we'll take a picture. When they get done, we're going to set the background image of the canvas to whatever they just took. Now, I think it's a bug in App Inventor, but at least on my camera, I have to set it to landscape mode to take my picture and then take the picture sideways. So I'm going to do that. And what I'll do is just take a picture of the screen here, and then we'll be able to draw on it for some reason. All right, so I'm going to click on take picture. My camera came up. Let's see. My battery is getting low. Okay. So I'm going to turn sideways my phone because I'm in landscape mode. So I went to settings and I changed the screen mode to landscape. And I'll just take a picture of our blocks. Right, and they should show up in our, first I got to hit save. Okay, once I do that, back in the drawing editor, it's taken over the background of our screen. So now, that's the background. I could have taken a picture of my little sister, right, and start drawing on her, but now I should be able to draw lines on this thing I just draw, or just the picture I just took. Okay, and I can change the color and whatnot. Okay, so pretty much it's a really cool app where you can go take pictures and then draw stuff on the or draw on the people that you just took a picture of. I'm going to show you how to use the slider component in App Inventor 2. So we've got this kind of funky UI where we've got a big button, small button that lets us change kind of the size of the circles drawn on this cat. Okay, and I'm just going to get rid of those guys. Instead, we're going to use the nice slider widget, which is kind of a new component in App Inventor. So I'm going to delete the big and small buttons. We don't need them. All right, and then I'm going to go grab a slider component and bring it in and try to get it into my, whoops, missed it there, but I think I can get in the horizontal arrangement. All right, then I'll just grab a label because this will kind of tell the user what that slider's for. And the label, I'll just put some text in there that says this is, this is how you change the dot size. Okay, and then let's just, I don't know why the orange is the default here, but let's change that to black. And that'll look a little bit better. Okay, so the properties on the slider component, one is width, and I'm going to change this to 100. The widget's a little bit glitchy, and I find if I give it a fixed width, that helps it. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, it looks okay here in our UI. All right. Key things are these properties. So min value, let's make the smallest circle someone can draw 2, and let's make the biggest circle someone can draw 20. All right, and we'll start it off as 10, right in the middle someplace. So that'll be the default. Okay, so that's kind of setting up our slider component in the designer. And now let's go to the blocks and actually make it work. Right, if you'll recall, we've got this variable called dot size, and when the canvas gets touched, let's take a look at this guy. When canvas is touched, we use the variable dot size. Whatever's in this variable, we use it to draw a circle that size. Okay, so let's kind of make us some room. Let's get rid of this camera stuff. And what we want to do with the slider is when the user changes it, we want to change the variable dot size. So slider has just one event. It's called position change, and it tells you the thumb position. As you know, we set its range from 2 to 20. Okay. Now, when the position changes, we want to change the dot size variable. So I'm going to set global dot size to, and I'm going to mouse over thumb position and get the thumb position. Okay, and that's it. Okay, user changes the slider, change that variable, and then the next time they touch the picture, it'll draw a picture of a different size. Let's see if it works. So right now, my picture should be of size 10. I'll touch blue, and let's see how big my pictures are. No, they're size 2. Okay, I guess it's because I haven't changed my slider yet. Let's see if I change it. Okay, now the pictures are bigger. Okay, now if I change it to real small, they should be back down to 2. Yeah, they are. And real big, they should be the biggest yet, 20. Okay, cool. So our slider's working as far as changing it, but our default value for the circle size is not what the thumb position is, which makes sense. So really, if we wanted to start off as 10, we would just set this variable to 10 to start off with. And that way, because our thumb position is starting off as 10, they'll be in sync.